Hi guys, Ollie from House Share Heroes. Today I would like to speak to you about an important change which is coming into the private renters sector. So from the 1st of May 2026, the Renters' Right Act is coming into play. This is going to have a big impact on the private renters sector, and there are going to be some really important changes that you need to be aware of if you are a landlord, or if you are a landlord that has a professional HMO property. So what's going to be happening from the 1st of May 2026? So the major change is going to be the abolishment of Section 21. So this means now that you cannot just serve a tenant with a Section 21 notice to regain possession of your property. The only way that you're going to be able to regain possession of your property is if you are looking to sell the property. And in that case, you need to have the property on the market with an agent. If that property doesn't sell within 12 months and you want to relet that property, you're not allowed to relet that property for a minimum of 12 months. So that is quite a big change that's happening. The other reason for issuing notice on a tenant is if you have a family member moving in. So the only way you're going to be able to evict a tenant now, if you're not looking to sell the property, or you haven't got a family member, or you're not planning on moving back into the property yourself, is by serving a Section 8 notice, which will cover things such as rent arrears, antisocial behaviour, breach of contracts. So these are the only ways you're going to be able to remove the tenants legally if you're looking to regain possession of your property. Now this could cause a few complications, especially with HMO properties. So when a new tenant moves in, you're not allowed to serve that tenant with a notice to say that you're selling the property or that you've got a family member moving into the property within the first 12 months. If you've got a 6-bedroom HMO and you've got 6 tenants in there, and one tenant moves in, and then another tenant moves in, and then another tenant moves in, and then one of those tenants decides to move out after 6 months, and then a new tenant moves in, it's going to be quite difficult to line up every single tenant in that property to ensure that they have been in that property for a minimum of 12 months before you can serve them with notice to say that you're going to be selling that property. So 9 times out of 10, when a HMO property is sold, it tends to go to another landlord who is an investor. So in that case, you can sell your property with tenants in situ, which gets around having to serve notice and having vacant possession on the property. If the buyer is looking and they want the property vacant possession, then this is where it can become a bit of an issue in terms of actually selling that property. There will be another ground under the Section 8, which will be for heavy refurbishment works. So if you have had a HMO and you've maybe had it for 15 to 20 years and it's looking really tired now and it needs a full upgrade, which is not possible with the tenants actually in situ, then you will also be able to serve them with notice if you're planning on doing some heavy refurbishment works or extensions and things like that. So the other point with this is that the tenants will need to be given a minimum of 4 months notice. So currently with a Section 21, it is a 2 months notice for the tenant to vacate. At the minute, if you're looking to sell it, move into it, or carry out heavy refurbishment works, then you'll need to serve that tenant with a minimum of 4 months notice. The other grounds on a Section 8 for breach of contract still stand the same. So it would be a 2-week notice for breach of contract for, say, non-payment of rent, antisocial behaviour, things like that. If the tenant decides not to leave, then the process will still be the same, in that you'll have to go down the eviction route and get a possession order through the courts. So that's the major change that's coming into effect as of the 1st of May 2026. So the second major change that is going to be coming into effect will be the abolishment of a short hold tenancy agreements. So currently at the minute, a tenant will move in on either a 6 or 12-month tenancy agreement, and that tenant will be in a fixed term until the end of that tenancy. As of the 1st of May, they are going to be replaced with assured periodic tenancies, which means that the tenant can move in on day one and then also give notice on day one for them to then vacate 2 months later. Now, this is going to affect your bottom line as a landlord if you're having tenants that are constantly moving in and out every couple of months. Because if you think about the amount of work and the costs that go into setting up a tenancy agreement and moving a tenant in, you've got things like your inventory checks, you've got your right to rent checks, you've got all of your paperwork, your tenancy agreements. You have to make sure that you're issuing all of your compliance documents to make sure that everything is done properly when that tenant moves in, only for them to then give notice on day one and move out 2 months later. So we're going to be making some changes within our structure as a business to ensure that as landlords yourselves, you're going to be protected, which we will send out some more information in due course about how we're going to have to restructure our business and our fee model to ensure that as landlords you remain compliant and your properties and rooms remain consistently filled. So the third major change that is coming in is something called Awaab's law. So this is in relation to a child that was living in a property that had severe damp and mold, and the landlord failed to act, and subsequently that child died from basically from conditions with their lungs due to the mold spores in that property. So as of the 1st of May, Awaab's law also comes into play, which means that if any tenants report any damp or mold within your property, you basically have 24 hours to create an action plan to ensure that that becomes rectified as quickly as possible. So this is another piece of legislation that you need to be made aware of to make sure that you're staying compliant, because if you do not act on these things immediately or within 24 hours, then you will potentially be liable for prosecution and enforcement notices. Now, the fourth change which is coming into play will be that you are not able to discriminate against certain tenants, such as housing benefit. So currently at the minute, a lot of agents, they may be approached by people that are on housing benefit, and landlords can say, well, unfortunately, we're not accepting these kind of tenants. You are no longer allowed to discriminate against these kind of tenants. So the only thing that you need to potentially look at, so from our point of view, we manage professional HMOs, and you can understand the lifestyle differences potentially between tenants that are, say, working night shifts, and tenants that may be at home, not working all day. There's going to be some issues or conflicts and friction potentially mixing tenants with different backgrounds and lifestyles, which will become more of a management issue from our point of view. So what I would advise is check your mortgage terms and conditions, because especially with HMOs, professional HMOs, a lot of the mortgage companies will stipulate that the tenants need to be working professionals. And this also goes for your insurance documents. So some insurance companies will insist that the property that they're going to be insuring is going to be with professional working tenants. So I would definitely recommend just checking what's in your mortgage terms and conditions and your insurance policies. The fifth change which is coming into play will be you're not allowed to discriminate against families with pets and children. So this is more so for single let properties. Some landlords may say they don't want children because potentially because of the damage that could happen within a property, such as, you know, drawing on walls and extra wear and tear and things like that. And the same with pets as well. So with HMOs which we manage, we do have reasonable grounds to decline a request for a tenant to have a pet, such as like a dog or a cat. Because if you can imagine, you've got a 6-bedroom property and every tenant in that property wants to have a dog in there, you can see how that could cause absolute chaos in a property. And not only that, there are tenants, other tenants going to be living in there using the shared areas, and they could be allergic to pets. They may not be the tenants that are currently in situ, but then obviously if a tenant leaves and a tenant wants to move in, but that tenant's got allergies, pet allergies, then it's going to be stopping that landlord from being able to potentially fill that property. So with a HMO, it's slightly different. You do have reasonable grounds to decline requests for pets. So as an agency, because we currently manage your property, and if we don't currently manage your property, then you can come and speak to us. We are currently working very hard in the background to make sure that you remain compliant with the new laws that are going to be coming into effect. So we're updating our systems and we're updating our processes to ensure that from the 1st of May, as a landlord, you and your property will remain compliant. We will be changing our terms of business to reflect the changes that are coming into play, especially things around the tenant fines. So currently landlords are paying a tenant fine. We will be offering a tenant fine guarantee service, whereby if a tenant moves in and then decides to move out after 2 months, we will re-rent that property for you for free. So that's something that you will not have to worry about. The only thing you will need to worry about is the void period and the turnaround between the tenant leaving and a new tenant moving in. So thanks for listening. I hope that was informative, and we will be in touch shortly with further information about what we're doing as a company to ensure that yourself and your investment remains compliant. Thanks.